So good evening, everyone. This is Sarang from Imaticus. I would like to welcome you all to this webinar and thank you for taking the time to attend. Today, we are going to explore simple and effective ways of managing our time while working from home. Hopefully, by end of this webinar, you shall learn to manage your work-life dynamics efficiently without getting burned out. So let me introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Afeef Ahmed. He's a senior management executive, sports performance coach, and human resource consultant. Has good amount of over 19 years of experience. He draws his ability to create solutions, influence results through human empowerment, learning development solutions, sales, operations, project management, and innovation consulting. So not to delay more, I shall hand over to Afeef to take it forward. And thank you so much and happy learning, guys. Afeef, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarak. Really excited to be part of this journey with all of you. I see the number of participants is increasing, with every second. So, but I think, some of you have already been here for over, 5 to 10 minutes. So I think we'll get started and we'll just, take any queries from those who just joined as we move along. So, good evening, good afternoon. This is Afeef. Sarak, thanks for the introduction. And we'll spend the next 60 minutes. I'll try to keep it as interactive as possible. The bulk of it will be a broadcast from my side. We're looking at something that's really relevant, really important as well in what we are facing today, right? So aptly called remote time management. What we'll look at today um, will be primarily to see what are some of those typical challenges that working remote poses, right? And other simple ways, other effective ways on how we can be efficient and manage our time better. We see a lot of work-life dynamics getting exposed here. So can we manage those dynamics better? And of course, in the process, how do we ensure that we minimize and we avoid getting burned or stressed out, right? One disclaimer I'd like to, put right out here. This situation is new to everybody, right, including me, right? So I wouldn't want to come across as someone, who's an expert in, in this current situation that we are facing, right? But probably there's something that I can share, and you could also share it as we move along, and we sort of get to learn from each other, right? So that's the key thing, right? So I'd like to start off with, a pretty uh, sort of a question for you, right? Just looking back at the recent days and weeks and getting a sense of where we are right now, I'd like you to share. You could use chat, you can even unmute yourself, and you can speak up as well. I would like you to share some of the things that are not working out well, right? Some of the issues that you're facing right now, right? So let's on a bad note, right? What are some of those challenges and issues that you're facing right now because you're working from a remote place, because you're working in almost complete isolation, right? So let's get a few chats, or please unmute yourself and go ahead and share a few thoughts on some challenges that you're facing right now. Okay, fantastic. So I'm already getting some responses here. I request you to choose the option which says reply to, send the message to all panelists and attendees. All of you, everyone can see what what is being shared. So I'll read out. Um, so I'm seeing hardware issues, internet issues, prioritizing, home environment, network coverage problem. Okay, so I can easily go into early mornings, spending time on my machine, either working or studying. Great. That's from Mahip. Bharti also shared a few thoughts. Okay, thanks, Garima and Ashutosh. and D'Souza as well. Okay, so Neha says communication with the team for the smallest of things have to call and sort out the same, so there's no house help. Okay, my easy to have boundaries disappear. There's no discipline by Bharti. Server drive access, less segregation between work and home. Interesting thing from Abhimanyu as well, right? Also, Sanjay says missing emotional intelligence. Feroz, you're saying there's too much work. Now we are starting at early morning to late night. Okay. Okay. Manisha says network issues are painful, especially after 10. Is that 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., Manisha? 10 a.m. Okay. Okay. So I'll just pause right now, right? Thank you so much for sharing your responses, right? And I'll just park these things that you've shared, right? So we're seeing a lot of challenges, right? And I think though some of you just shared one, you're able to relate with a lot of the other things that the others have shared as well. But is there something that's happened that's also been a positive outcome as well? Okay, let's go back to our chat window for the next 30 seconds or a minute. And I would now like you to share what is something that has worked out well? What are some of the positives? What are some of the things that you possibly didn't expect, but has worked out, let's say beneficial for you? Going back to the chat window. Okay. All right. So Anne starts again. Okay. Save on traveling, massive productivity, family gathering. Harita says, okay. Abhimanyu, time wasted traveling is saved now. Okay. Anyone who's from Bangalore would know exactly, what that feeling is. Uh, okay. So I see a lot of chats. Anup, great to have you. No commute, time spent on workouts. Fantastic. Okay. Pallavi, shuffle between home. Okay. Cost saving, massive productivity boost. Okay, Garima and Mahi. Better sleep. Okay, fantastic suggestion. No traveling again, Ashutosh. Right? There's lesser physical exertion as per Bharti. Wow, those are a lot of responses I'm getting. Okay, uh, great. I'll request you to pause now because it's absolutely fantastic to see the speed at which a lot of the positives have been coming out as well. Right? So thank you for sharing your thoughts. I hope all of you are looking at the chat window as well, and looking at the brilliant things that are coming out. Time to learn new things. Um, I miss lifting weights by Mahip. Okay, some hobbies, right? Less pollution, getting close to family members. Sounds learning a foreign language. Okay, interesting. Akash. There's no junk food. Party, fantastic, right? Okay, so great. And I think this will go on if I just let you type. So that's a great thing to learn as well, right? And to be honest, I had a webinar on a similar topic last week, and I did not get as many positives as and the speed at which I'm getting it right now. Anup says you started your website after 10 years. Fantastic, right? So great. Thanks for sharing that. So we've seen what the current situation has actually posed, right? So what are those things that we're facing as challenges? What are those things that we've also identified as even potential opportunities, right? Now, um, now let's look at the reason why all of us are actually sitting here, right? I'd like us to first start off by working backwards, right? um, unless we're very clear about what is the outcome that we plan to achieve, what is it that we want to accomplish by the end of the day, end of the week, or end of the month, whatever we do might not really make sense, right? So what I'm asking you to do is start from what is it that you want to achieve, and then work backwards, right? So when you start working backwards, then what you're also doing is you're looking at what your current situation is, right? So you're saying, what's the outcome that I want? What is expected from me? Could be my SLAs, could be my KRAs, could be the daily meetings that I have, right? Could be the client interactions, could also be the time that you want to spend with family as well, right? And what's your current situation, right? And so if you look at it, right, it could be a little hazy or could be as clear as you make it. So we need to understand what needs to be done. We have to be very clear about it, right? So again, just to reiterate, start with what is it that you want to achieve, then you work backwards and see what's my starting point, what's my current situation. The dynamics have changed, right? And so it becomes important that we garner that level of awareness first. Look at my current situations. And then we look at simple things that can actually help us in giving us a right start. Right now, few things that can actually help us. The first thing is, do you feel that bringing your home on board with what's happening right now in terms of you and your jobs or your businesses, does that play an important part? You could just raise your hands if you agree with that thought, that bringing your family on board with what's happening right now plays an important part, and it actually becomes an important first step by itself. Okay, so if you agree with that statement, you can raise your hands. Okay, great. Thanks for that. A lot of hands being raised. Some of you could be staying alone. We'll come to that part also in a bit. Um, Now, why does it become important that we need to bring a family or bring a home on board first, right? Because it's new to them as well. Some of you might have been working remote for a while, maybe a day in a week or 2 days in a week or a few hours in a day. A lot of people have the tendency to bring work back home as well. So your family is used to seeing you work in a certain format, but not seeing you work completely at home and bringing the entire office, all the dynamics, all the network connectivities, your conference calls, right? So it's important that they get a sense of the importance of what you're doing, what your role is, what your job description is, what is expected of you, right? The second thing is something that I've seen work very well in some of the Western countries. Um, the level of seriousness that I've seen certain executives uh, have when they work from home, to the extent of actually taking a car, driving the car from their front door or the front gate to the back gate where they've actually set up the office. So they get a feeling that they've actually moved out of home and they've actually come to a place of work, right? So that's the level of seriousness I've seen a lot of executives have when it comes to, so they're working from home is as good as opening one door and walking into a room. But like I said, driving is that was an extreme case. I found it extreme, but then I realized that's the level of seriousness that people actually have in terms of how they actually visualize their workspace, right? So make sure whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a luxurious place. If you can, then great. But you have a space that is allocated for you where you go sit and you work, right? It's like a little place where you go worship, right? It's you have your bed where you go sleep. So your place where you work should not be a random place, right? Today you sit on the sofa and tomorrow you're sitting somewhere else and then you're on the ground the third day. Create a place and look at what is required for you, what infrastructure, right? What connectivities are required for you to make sure that your space is set up at home. Give it a certain look and feel as well, right? It's a very strong subconscious driver to the level of seriousness that you can actually give yourself in the process. The third thing is what the image actually says here, right? You dress for the job. Um, you know, uh, a lot of times, or maybe if you haven't tried it, you should probably give it a try, where you just change into what you would usually work, wear and go to work, right? You wear your office tag. It could be nobody in front of you. There's nobody apart from your family at home, right? But just give it a try. Some of you are probably doing it. If not, just give it a try. The level of, again, the seriousness that actually they bring about, the subconscious drive again that you get in the process when you just dress without having to step out, but all you're doing is making sure that you know you're moving from a place which is not part of your office to another place which is your office, and you also dress for that particular part, right? And everything that I'm talking to you about has a lot to do with certain tools and techniques and certain things that you can create amongst within yourself, within whatever is around you, that can give you that subconscious drive. Okay, so these are the three key things in terms of starting right. Get your family on board, get your home on board, set up an office space, and of course dress for the job, right? Okay, I'll just take a quick 10-minute pause to see if any of you have any questions, anything that you'd like to share. Okay. So now we look at the second part, right? So you've set an office space, you've got, the basic logistics and everything that's required for you to do. Now it comes to, a bit on the behavior side, right? So how do I prioritize? So one of the challenges we've seen also is, I don't know when I start, when I end, right? Some of the chat messages that I read out earlier, what tasks do I focus on, right? So let's look at some of the elements that make it easier for us to prioritize tasks. Now, I don't know if you have this, but it would be a wonderful thing if you commit to a start time and you also commit to an end time, right? And again, I'm going to open the chat window and I'd like you to share your thoughts on why is it important for us to commit. I'm not saying, you work for the day. I heard someone, say that, they started their day at 9 and they're on till 11. In fact, they're doing much more than what they were doing back in the office, right? So let's work backwards. And my question to you is, do you have a start time and do you have a fixed end time? Have you committed yourself to that? And if yes, that's great. Can some of you share your responses on why does this little thing make such an important thing? Okay, great, Pallavi. Less stress and more peace. Sagar, yes, you will get the recording. Okay. So my question is, why is it important for us to commit to also ending at a certain time? Great, and ensures work-life balance, more time is saved to work in discipline. Great, thanks for that, Bharti. That's one of the key words I was looking at, right? How disciplined are we in our process? And like what Harita says, you can plan your day and your schedule, you get your day plan. Great, thanks, Paresh. Manisha, yes, discipline again. Yeah, Richa, great to have you. We plan with a set time, but end up extending the hours, right? Getting things done. Okay. We also said, yeah, Feroz. So company thinks that now you're at home, what are you going to do? So why don't I give you some more work, right? Okay. Okay. Competitiveness kicks in and then discipline disappears. Okay. Great. Fantastic. So work-life balance, right? So the key word again is, unless we set a certain discipline and, we also drive ourselves towards it, something that's a little more, visible, right? Something that's visible to your family members, something that's visible to you yourself, right? Something that you find eventually become, a habit that you've created that makes it easy for you. Your body clock also starts responding that way, right? There's lesser mental fatigue. There's more mental endurance and stamina that you automatically create in the process, right? And okay, so here's we want to commit start and end time. However, suddenly things come up which is new for everyone, and I guess due to this we are extending work hours. Okay, so that's another chat that I've received. I request all of you to share your chat messages using the option which says to all panelists and attendees. So everybody gets to see what you're sharing, right? Okay. So commit to a start and end time. India is a country that's given the world the concept of infinity. Now the world is coming back to it and saying work, within a certain time frame. So there are certain challenges that, this the way we've grown up, right? We spent decades, working through a certain format of processing time. Now the world, like I said, is coming back and asking us to process time differently. A good way to get started off is have a defined start and end time, right? Make that a habit. And I can guarantee you, most people that I meet, most people that I speak with, they really, they have a start time, but they don't have an end time, or they have an end time, but right? So no one is going to do that for you, right? You have to do that for yourself. You have to do that by yourself. Okay. So once you've got that, it becomes a lot easier to tell ourselves, okay, what am I going to do? What's my daily work schedule looking like, right? What's my task number 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Uh, and there could be certain tasks that might require a lot of time. There could be certain tasks that could be done, a lot uh, easy as well. So use timers and you also divide your task into smaller chunks, right? Look at what's important. I'm sure some of you might have seen a lot of, possibly YouTube videos or WhatsApp forwards which talk of time management and how you need to prioritize things. So it works very well when you use timers, when you record a certain activity, when you say, hey, this is something that I need to finish because it's important, and this is the time that I'm allocating for it, right? You start driving yourself towards that. Break your bigger task into smaller chunks. Look at where time actually gets wasted, right? That's we need to see, where is my seepage actually happening? Is it on social media, right? Is it on, is it an inability to, be able to communicate to a client or to a, to the family members, or also to the boss in a certain way, right? Look at where time is actually, you know, where are we losing grip over time, right? Be a little more aware. And we wouldn't know that unless we have set some kind of a physical, mental, and, a scheduled clock, right? So commit to a start time, create a schedule, break your work down into smaller chunks, look at what absolutely has to be done, put your maximum energies over there, look at where the time wasters are, right? Of course, this is important. This is new, right? This is new to everybody. This is new to presidents of countries. This is new to CEOs. This is new to, everybody. Even people who've been working at home. The dynamics of how you're working are completely new. So you have to give yourself a few days to make this routine work for you. Do not give up. Do not get stressed out. Do not look at, unless you've got something in place and you've given it a disciplined approach day in and day out. uh, I don't think we have the right to complain, right? If you've not set the process in mind, we cannot I'm getting more frustrated, or I'm not able to complete tasks, or my client is giving me too much work, or my boss is asking me to do more because I'm sitting at home, and it, so there's no travel time. So instead of that time, someone's passing me more files. Uh, all those things are an attribute of somebody else planning your day for you, right? So let's take the first step: commit, create a schedule, break down, look at where your time wasters are, and give yourself some time. Okay. Again, I'm going to pause for a quick 10 seconds and see if any of you have any questions. You can just share it on chat. Okay. So if all of you are okay, if you're hearing me pretty well, can I just do a quick raise of hands again from all of you? Oh, wow, we've touched 103 participants. Okay. If you're all comfortable with what we're speaking so far, you're all able to hear me as well, please do a quick raise of hands. Just take a quick 15-second pause here. Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so moving on, right? An important area, right? In fact, I would urge you to read or look up um, the cultural dimensions. If you just go to Google and type cultural dimensions, you will get to understand how typically, the Indian mindset works, especially when it comes to, how we look at work, how we look at, prioritizing work, right? I'll mention that as something that you can take offline. I'm going to put that up on the chat window as well here. The cultural actually play a huge impact on how we look at work, right? Now, we're not really known for having a great work-life balance. So we've been nurtured with a certain mindset of prioritizing work, clients over, anything else, right? And then we just take the family to a mall, or we just take some time out, right? So the bulk of it has a lot of time is spent on work, has been spent at home. Now the dynamics change because now you are at home, and now how do I turn off, right? When am I turning on and when am I turning off, right? So it's a little important, a little tricky as well, right? So please remember, when you're working at home, you've not you're not physically moved from one place to another place. You're still sitting in the same place, and you're looking at how we can close off. So this again, correlates with what we saw earlier. Unless we have an end time and a very clear end time, it gets difficult for us to know when to switch off, right? Bhagya, I see that you have you've raised your hand. Can you please share what's on your mind, please? You can unmute yourself and speak as well. Bhagyashree? Bhagyashree, are you able to hear me? Okay. So learn to turn your work off, right? Which basically means once you've set your physical space where you sit and work, then you also have to make sure that you shut it and you get up from the place on, right? Ensure that you take your lunch breaks and your mini break just like you would back at home, right? At times we just, because of lack of discipline or because of, getting so immersed in whatever we are doing, we might not give ourselves we might not give importance to the break that the body and mind actually need, right? So assume and pretend that you're still at office, have a lunch time and have a mini break time, okay? Um, Bhagyashree, back to you. You're able to hear me. I saw that you had raised your hand. Did you have a question in mind? So if you have a question in mind, please go ahead. Or if you want to share something, okay. So Bhagya will probably chat back when she's back. Okay. So make sure that you take those, and these are planned breaks. These are time breaks. And once you take a break, ensure that you reconnect again, right? So what you're also doing here is that you're ensuring that your family is also, or who is at home, also sees that uh, you have specific work hours, there are specific break hours, there are specific lunch hours, right? There are certain times that you just take a break and get back to work, right? Make it very visible, make it very apparent, make the distinction very apparent, because remember, it's new to them as well. That's the first thing that we started off with. It could be your neighbors, it could be people who who contribute to whatever you're doing back at home. It could be those phone. If you live alone, you connect with virtually. Remember, it's new to them. They also gradually understand that you are physically at home, right? But there are certain deliverables, there are certain tasks, there are certain duties and responsibilities you have, right? So it's new to them as well. But when you make this discipline within you, when you make the distinction very clear, then it becomes a lot easy for them to support you as well. And I can guarantee you, with the few days that we've already spent, comfortably say that your, once, people at home have seen a certain pattern in which been working, they gradually start supporting to make sure that you get that time and space and nutrition as well. Yeah. Great, Manisha. Yeah. So because of network, lack of effective communication with team, productivity hampers, so becomes difficult to have such breaks, right? So I keep saying this: if you don't plan things for yourself, somebody else will plan it for you, right? So it's better that you do it. Your body needs nutrition anyways, right? It needs a break anyways, right? Your mind needs to relax. So you need to decide and you need to create that space for yourself. Okay. So that was on turning off, reconnecting, and making that distinction very apparent for yourself and for the other people around you, right? Okay. So we move to the next part, which is an outcome of a well-planned, you know, execution, right? Which is becoming efficient and effective in whatever you're doing, right? Now, we have to understand, right? And we, okay, so there was a I will take that. Thank you for that. I'll take this question, towards the end, right? Be efficient and effective, right? Efficiency has a lot to do with how we utilize time and what are we producing in the time that we have allocated for ourselves, in the time that is given to us. Effective is more about what are we giving the desired impact, right? Is it exactly what I wanted, right? So what I want, and am I doing it within a certain time, right? So how do we do that? So let's quickly look at that. Uh, Firstly, given the fact that um, the only outlet that we have is, let's say, the gadgets that we possess could be TVs or cell phones or anything else that can connect us digitally to something else. Be aware and be mindful of your digital habits, right? Identify when time is slipping, right? What is required for me to move out from a certain habit, and what new habits do I need to create? I see a lot of posts on groups where they talk of, hey, binge on Netflix or Amazon Prime or a lot of these things, right? And today morning I was part of a very interesting discussion as well, but the exact same words were voiced out by a trainer and coach. He said, whatever you do, don't fall into the trap of Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything else, right? It might be difficult for you to get back to whatever you're doing. Uh, there's a lot of need for you to ensure that you're able to give your body the break that it requires, right? So one, be aware of your digital habits. Look at how much time you're spending on Facebooks and WhatsApps or YouTube. There's a lot of information and misinformation and over information, right? So just don't fall into the trap, because now it's your time is a lot more critical, right? And people observe, especially families observing what you do as well. And you don't want them to get the idea that this is what you do at work as well, right? So give your body the right amount of air or oxygen that it requires, right? Observe how you breathe, stretch, exercise. A lot of videos by celebrities being posted again in terms of different routines. Again, don't fall into that trap, because I've seen a lot of people uh, wanting to overdo what they probably never did for a lot of time, saying, hey, now I'm at home and I'm going to do multiples of things that I never did, right? So plan a day out, right? But make sure that you give yourself that little break, right? Whatever we do, we have to use our body to do it. So make sure that you give it the right amount of exercise as well. Eat well, nutrition. Do not contribute to social hysteria, right? There's a lot of speculation when the prime minister's message was on scheduled for 9 a.m. today, and last evening speculation and speculation in terms of, is it going to be a longer lockdown, or is it this, or is it that, or what's happening here, or what's happening there? Even by spending time thinking about it, you're contributing to it. You're losing out your air time. You're losing out the time that you spend somewhere else by contributing to it. And please remember, when you start getting attached to something that's emotional in nature, and let's say not very positive in nature, it takes a longer time for you to get back to a productive mindset. It takes a longer time for your body and mind to recover and come back to a certain thought process that is required for you to execute your task, right? So the desired effect and your efficiency also gets impacted. And it's very important that we look at what we can do and we take only those up, right? Now you might say, Afeef, it's a lot easier for you to sit here and say, take only what you can do. It's very difficult for me to say no to the others, right? But the fact is, only you know your situation, right? Sorry, only you know what is your situation. Only you know what your capabilities are right now, what the dynamics are. So take up what you can do, learn to say no, right? Be able to validate why and how you're able to take. I'm sure the sensitivities and empathies have also evolved, but you have to voice it out. Unless you state it, people might just assume that someone's very comfortable, they're extremely happy working at home, they got everything set up. They have it set up. It might be working equally well for somebody else. To some people, working remote could be an opportunity of a lifetime. To somebody, it could be a nightmare, right? So the dynamics are very different. So you know your situation. So you should be able to very clearly articulate and say what you can take and why is it that you're not able to take something up, right? And once you take something up, this again has a lot to do with the behavior that we create, the discipline that we create. You complete what you've taken up. Okay, this is when breaking tasks down into bigger and smaller chunks, knowing getting a sense of how much time it typically takes for you to complete something, right? uh, you know add up. for you to be able to finish what you've taken up, for you to be gradually. Now, remember this. This is a behavior that you're building. This is new to you. This is new to a lot of people. So this is not prescription. This is not what I'm asking you to do. Is something that will take time to build. As long as you consciously keep doing those activities, right? You take what you can finish. You'll gradually get a sense of how much time you can allocate. You'll understand your own efficiency levels, and then you'll find that your completion rates actually go up. And make sure that you avoid overworking and you do not go beyond your scheduled end time. What you've committed to, make sure that you stand with that commitment, right? So, simple techniques on how you can actually be efficient and effective, right? Okay, now there are some questions that have come up from the group in the Q&A section, right? So I'll just take a quick, I'll just read out one of these. So we have an anonymous attendee, okay. I cannot sleep and hence I tend to work throughout the night and day, and I'm exhausted, I tend to lay off. It's a very irritating pattern. To top it off, the lockdown is mind reversing at home, and we need time with all, but I'm not in the position to give that. What are your suggestions, right? So, great. Thank you for sharing this, right? I'm not sure if all of you caught the question, right? So, the sleep patterns have been broken, physically exhausted. You want to take your mind off it, but it's not, there's always, an overall or an underlying, thought about, the fear around, the nervousness around what's happening, right? So would any of you like to share your thoughts? I just got this question from, one of your, friends or colleagues. So the question is to me, what are your suggestions? I'd like to put that to you. What 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 do you do? All of us are facing the same situation. Right? Can some of you share your thoughts on what you've done and how you've handled the situation? You could use chat again, right? So what are those? Those. How do you handle your, the mindsets that are actually hampering productivity? Okay, I'm not getting an answer right now. We will have Shivani. Would you like to share your thoughts here? I see you raise your hand. Okay, so usually when you raise your hand, we'll just maintain a protocol with, which essentially means that you want to say something, you want to share, you have something to ask, or you want to answer a question, right? So if I see a hand raised, I tend to immediately ask you. If not, I request you not to raise your hand. You could use the chat window to share your answers. Okay. Okay, so one message I've got is that chat is disabled. Okay, I need to quickly. Okay, sorry, I'm not sure how that happened, but the chat window is enabled, so please go ahead and type your answers on the chat window. Thanks for pointing that out. And okay, so to the one response from my side in terms of not being able to sleep and working day and night because of the way things are. Um, well, create a little routine for yourself. Like I said, give yourself 5 days, right, or give yourself 3 days or 4 days, right, and take the smallest thing, right. Don't plan your entire day. Plan a few hours, but stick to it. Make it happen, right. It can be quite overwhelming when you try to do everything, right? You want to change it, a lot of habits at the same time. Take the smallest and easiest thing that you can change. Give yourself 24 hours, 48 hours. Take the next smallest thing that you can change, and gradually you start building up that habit, right? So you'll find that your mind, you get this emotional boost, you get this motivation and confidence of having finishing off with small tasks that gradually add to an overall sense of accomplishment and completion, right? So there's a very strong mental drive that is required, a very strong subconscious drive that is required for us to be able to do a lot of these things, right? Take the smallest task, write it down, say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, make it happen. Take the next smallest task, and then you make it happen, right? Gradually, little by little, one step at a time, you will find that this behavior will start triggering a different kind of behavior altogether, right? Okay, so some of the other things that I've seen here, um, great. So put things first, be positive, pick up a hobby or an activity, unwind from technology, right? So it's very important that we also understand what gives me the most stress, right? So this is where you'll have to create a certain level of heightened awareness about yourself again, right? So we have another interesting session on that in terms of how do you work through some of these mindsets and how do you create the right kind of rhythm for yourself again, okay? Practice gratitude in case you've never done before, right? So certain things would work for some people, certain things might not work for someone else, but we have to constantly keep trying. Right? And one thing, like I said, something that you can apply immediately is look at a small task, complete it, move on to the next task. You might have 20 tasks, big tasks, important tasks. Take the smallest doable one, something that's in your grip and in your control. Okay, great. Thank you all for your responses on chat. Shantanu's also shared improve a skill that you have dormant inside you. Fantastic, right? Okay, so everything that we're hearing here is got to do with uh, activating certain parts in the brain that actually release certain chemicals that make it a lot easier for us to move on to the next level. Okay, okay. The last part here is how being visible and accessible helps us in eventually being able to manage ourselves a lot better while working remote, right? Be visible at work, right? Certain companies have policies where you need to, be, on a system or a CRM or a certain tool that clocks your time. Some companies even make it a mandate that you need to have your webcam on, right? And, you're physically there for at least a certain number of hours. Some people look at it in terms of, what are you sending by the end of every 2 hours or 8 hours or whatever, right? Different ways. End of the day, what people are really looking at is trying to make sure that you're doing your work, right? So you make it easier. So there are different ways in which you can be visible, right? So you communicate with your colleagues, you set up calls through the day, you plan those calls out. Nobody might be calling you, but you set up a practice where you call somebody for a certain task or generally just to connect on certain things, with your colleagues and stakeholders. Stay in the loop, let them know what's happening, right? Obviously, don't get entangled with the obvious topics on what we see on media, right? But something that's a little more relevant, right? What are the possibilities you can actually create? Connected, call up, call your boss, call your client, call your family, have a scheduled call. Gradually make that a habit by itself, right? And like I mentioned earlier, only you know what your situation is, right? No two situations are the same. Someone's got children at home, someone's got absolutely nobody at home, someone's got an aging parent to take care of, right? You know your dynamics, right? I know, as of last week, I spoke to, someone that I'm coaching, and she was facing issues in being able to get basic groceries because, you're right on, the highway, right? And the closest, anything closest to you is almost, 10 to 15 kilometers away, right? So the dynamics of your place, only you understand best. So let people know, right? So you ask for help and support. You develop a proactive mode of engagement, right? And in case something fails, I heard, hey, there's network issues, there are these issues. And I know it's tough. I know it's difficult. So you let people know what your challenges are. and see if there are some alternate options available. See, you know, I've seen a lot of collaboration happening between apartments here. There's a lot of interaction happening. A lot of WhatsApp groups have been created, in the apartment that I stay, where my sisters stay. There are WhatsApp groups of each floor, the WhatsApp groups of each block, the WhatsApp groups of each, the next 10 neighbors, right? So somebody came up with the idea. Now that's working out brilliantly, because now basic commodities, someone needs a router, someone needs something else, somebody needs a UPS, right? Are being shared. Of course, everything is getting sanitized before it enters the residential premises, right? But I'm saying you initiate it. See what you need. There's no point in fretting about it, but you say, hey, what is one step that I can take from my side to be able to get the help that I need, right? So be proactive. See what are the alternate options. And to summarize again, if you don't plan your day, right, somebody else will always plan it for you, right? If if you don't communicate back to somebody in terms of what your situations are, they would assume that things are okay, and they would pass on more work. They would say, hey, Afeef is doesn't seem to be sharing a lot, which means he seems to have a lot of free time, right? And we live in a sometimes people say no news is good news, so let's pass on some more work. But if I articulate and say, look, this is where I am, this is my situation, this is what I need, this is what I don't have, this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do. I think people today have those sensitivities. There's a deeper level of empathy that we never expected people to have, that had actually, evolved over the past couple of weeks. And I'm sure a lot of you agree with that. So give them the benefit of doubt, express your thoughts to them, and let them know your situation. And you'll be amazed, how you'll actually find support and help coming from directions you never expected before, right? So that's what we've done today. Uh, we've looked at what are the challenges that working remote poses. And of course, it's not just about working remote, it's about working remote with, the scenario today, right? A few simple and effective ways. How do I create the self drive? How do I manage my own time? How do I take ownership of my own day, right? How do I make sure that I eat my food for my body by myself at a specific time? Small things, guys, right? But they make a big difference. They give you that direction, right? Eventually, what we're looking at is you manage your work-life dynamics. Unless you have a physical condition, it should be a lot easier for you to build these habits and and get the required amount of sleep done, right amount of exercise done, and of course, be able to contribute to your clients and everybody else, right? And in the process, ensuring that you do not get burnt or stressed out, right? So I'm going to pause right now with this one phrase that I'd used earlier. This is new to you. This is new to everybody. Be patient, create a schedule, commit to it, and keep it going. Take the smallest thing that you can manage and make sure that you are at it, right? You don't give up, right? So I'm going to pause here, and there are certain chats. I'm going to quickly look at my the chat window here. Okay, so I'm just opening the forum up for Q&A, right? Any specific questions that you want to ask. You can also unmute yourself and share your thoughts as well. It'll be great to hear a few voices apart from mine, right? So Dinesh, is there a question you asked? Sometimes we're committed to a particular work which can go beyond our close time. Yes, it does affect. Yeah, so there are a lot of attributes to it. We call it mental endurance, mental stamina, for example, right? Everything is an outcome of how the body takes in that information again, right? Manisha, you're saying build an attitude that helps you to move ahead. Fantastic, right? Um, Shantanu, you have a question. Right? What can freshers do during such times? What can freshers do during such times? Uh, Someone who's already joined the organization, is that right, Shantanu? Is that what you're saying? What is someone who's joined the company? I'm just trying to understand your question. What do freshers do? Okay, your college is going on. But I don't think the dynamics are, significantly different uh, for human beings, for the human race, right? In terms of what can you do when you're sitting at home, right? If you're working, then you pick up work. If you're a student, then you'd want to engage yourself with, you know, um, what is something that organizations will be looking for. You can also look inside and see what are some of the skills you can build up as well. Create maybe a cohort of your fellow students and be in touch with them, talk to your professors, create something where you're constantly talking and saying, hey, what else can we do while we're sitting over here, right? So I don't want to give you a prescription saying this is what you should do. What I'm asking you to do is create that engagement first, right? And don't talk about the issues we are facing. We have no control over it, but what can we do, right? What else can we do? Okay. um, Cleone, will you have another session on the same? Well, I think you could definitely reach out to Ematicus, and we can see how we can schedule another session for those who missed out. Okay, Paresh, preparing to join. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what IB is. If you can help me out there. Harita says start in on. Okay, investment bank. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm talking to a lot of bankers today, right? So start online courses, investment banking. Okay, fantastic, right? Well, I myself am, I'm looking at getting enrolled in, some course. So it's a great opportunity for us to have got, some kind of a pause, which is asking us to look inside and see what else can we do while we have the time, right? Garima, I think you should be getting the recording. I can just check with the recording is on. Perhaps you'll get a copy of the recording as well. Okay. So there are interesting Q&As that have come up as well. Worst part of work from home is busy in calls only, so not getting enough time to perform your task. What to do? So you have to inform people who call you, right? Like I said, people have to know what you're doing. They probably don't know what you're doing. Is it calls coming from, who's giving you most calls? How much time is going into those calls, right? You'll have to map a few of these things, right? Create a little pattern in terms of, what are those calls? How much time goes into the calls? How productive are those calls, right? Sometimes I've seen clients call up and they eat a lot of your time, and the same client asks you to send something when you could have finished it off if the client hadn't called you, right? So you'll have to let people know um, how you're positioned. Someone says, when should you take a break instead of pushing hard? Sometimes you need to push hard to finish a task. When should you take a break instead of pushing hard, right? So just imagine, you're working out, right? Let's say you're in a gymnasium and you're lifting, or let's say you're on the treadmill and you picked up a certain pace and you want to go faster and faster and faster. But beyond a point, you'll find that yes, you have the ability to, to go faster, but how hard you want to push yourself, right? You might reach a breaking point. So that is when you really have to pause. You start understanding your capacity and capability. You'll understand in when you need to pause by yourself, right? Your body is going to ask for it. So what I'm asking you to do here is get a little more conscious of your habits, right? Infuse a new habit, right? Say, hey, this is the time that I will have lunch, right? You'll find that gradually, uh, your body starts demanding that time. So if you're pushing too hard at the same time, you'll find you're not giving yourself the right amount of break. uh, the question is, what are you pushing hard for? Because if your body breaks down, then no matter whatever you push hard for, it has no relevance at all, because that's what time management is. Time management has a lot to do with giving yourself and your body the time to be able to focus, right? Again, I might not have the answers to all your questions, right? But I can just share an opinion. With frequent power cuts, it's difficult to manage with the charge on system, and there's no internet with mobile home. I tend to get calls. What do you think I should do? I do not have an answer, because that is the exact situation that I'm facing right now. There's nobody who can get the UPS, right? There's so even the place that I'm sitting right now is where I get maximum network coverage, right? So these are things that we're discovering, and we might not have the answer immediately. So, right. So perhaps you would want to network with somebody, maybe your friends and colleagues, and see if someone with a similar situation, if they found, some kind of an access, right? You might want to check with the office to see how somebody else. First, let them know that these are things that are bugging you, and I don't. I've been facing the same situation, and I've not got a solution yet. So from my side, it's wait and watch for now. Okay, great. I'm just going to check. It's 4:55. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out. We get a lot of, like I said, Facebook forwards and YouTube videos where we can watch and maybe sort of look at the exact same things that we've discussed today. But when a collective group, right, or a group collectively looks at a common thing, then you'll find that the sharing is where a lot of difference actually comes in. A lot of things that we learn from what else is going through. So I must thank you again for taking the time out in in wanting to look at how we can get a little more efficient. It might not be 100%, might not be 80%, but if it's that one positive step that you can take from today, right, which could be as simple as clearly letting everybody at home know exactly do, and why it's important that you have to sit in a certain place and why you're not disturbed, or how you will contribute to them when you're at home. Could be that smallest step. Writing down very clearly my start time and my end time, creating a timetable and putting it in front of you, for example. That could be the smallest step that you've taken, right? So I really urge you to do that. Be patient, make it a practice, and irrespective of how things are, this you'll find that this time that you're investing in yourself uh, might change things, the way you do things for the rest of your life, right? We can't change what's happening out there, but then we can definitely practice a few things in this period, take it as maybe an unfortunate blessing in disguise, and these practices can really help us in our social circles, our family circles, and our professional circles, right? Okay, great. Kunal, thank you for your thoughts. And we have a quick 2 minutes. I'm going to ask all of you to write down any one thing that you feel and you believe that you will take from today's discussion and go back and apply. What is one thing that you will take back from today and go back and apply in your personal or professional spaces, right? So let's get some responses on chat. What is that one thing that you will take back from today's discussion and apply in your professional and personal spaces? Okay. Okay. Manisha, thanks to you too. Creating a schedule, making a routine, scheduling time, call and meal break. Great. Plan ahead, manage time. Great. Thanks to you too, Dipendu, for attending. Great. Kunal, is a good thought, right? Being optimistic, right? We don't know what we don't know, right? So, but we do know that we can take one step, right? And thank you too. Scheduling work. Great, Sujata. Monica is saying, man is time. Shalini, stay calm. Kunal, always ready for VUCA. Great. Great. Thank you, Harita. Planning a day, being punctual, discipline on job, right? And also my apologies if I've not been able to answer all your questions. We just an informative session with some level of questions being answered. So my apologies if not all questions were answered. But once again, thank you so much for taking the time out and sharing your valuable thoughts. I wish you all the best, and let's make sure that we contribute in making sure that whatever we're facing right now, uh, you know, is over as possible time frame, right? So let's do our little bit. Thank you once again. Yeah, great. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Team Atticus. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much, Afeef, and thank you
Saras,
so much
Saras,
all.
would you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this webinar. And Afeef, it was a very nice session, and I hope all our participants, everyone, to implement whatever we have discussed so far during this webinar. So learning is very important, and this learning is to put yourself, implement those learnings in coming days, which are our testing times now. So, dear all, please get back to us in case of any questions you have, and do feel free to share your valuable feedback. And thank you so much again. Thank you, Afeef, and thank you so much, everyone.
Great. Thank you, Saras. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day and all the best. Logging off.